And welcome back to another exciting edition of Harley Davidson Machine Shop with your host Don Dyer, Harley Davidson factory trained technician. December 11th, 1981. But the purpose of this series is to help machinists. And I'm going about this to show young machinists, there's a lot of old machinists, but I like corrupting youth. I've been accused of it by one of the practical machinist bozos, and I will continue to corrupt youth. Get you into motorcycles. But don't smoke cigarettes, all right? Don't do anything like that. Okay, I'm going to take this loose, and I'm going to show you progress and what would I call this? An assessment at this point. I made the first cut on the cases, and let's have a look here. Let's get this light on. There we go, on the Brown Sharpe number 2, plain standard heavy mill. This is a unique machine. It came out of plutonium production at the Hanford nuclear reservation. It was made during the war, and it's got some tags on it. We'll take a tour of this thing sometime here, maybe even now. But okay, so here we are. I faced that side, and it's good. It's real good. No rock or anything. So now we're on the other side. And I got that straight edge across there. A Pratt & Whitney straight edge. Uh-oh. Excuse me. That cold is going away. So, what's the deal? Well, all this welding has warped the crap out of this end of the case. Now, my suspicion, and I'm going to set it up, that's will be in the next video, to straighten this out. Now, this forward part here, the crankcase itself, there's no welding up front there. So this would be more or less true. And I haven't really tried the level on this, but I will. Maybe I'll do that. So you can see you see this? That's the transmission end. So I suspect that this is pretty true. So I can take a pull down on that, and let me set this down here. And feeler gauge. That's 24 thousandths, and it just slips in there. So what this means is that this is going to have to come down at least 24 thousandths. And to plane that on down and to get that so the mating case won't warp. You know, bolting it together will squeeze it together, but yet everything's going to go out of alignment. Like I said, it's like eggshell almost, but there's a little bit of flax before it breaks, and so it'll twist and all that. So the object, from the mechanical point of view, is to get these interfaces in line with each other. This one is less critical, but this one and the other is very critical. Now, for every action, there is usually a terrible chain reaction, and it begins now. And I'll show you. Look at this disaster on the floor here. The next thing I'm going to do is clean this place up. I want to point out this shop is smaller than you may think. It is 11 feet wide and 17 feet long. Okay, so this thing was built by somebody long time ago, And I'll just candidly say they didn't know what the hell they were doing. And I want to show you this. I told you there was a custom crankshaft in here. It had, whoever makes those old crankshafts, I never can remember, forged steel flywheels years ago for these things. And it had those S&S rods. And you can see here, look at this. The crank was rubbing on this. You can see those circles. Maybe I can change that. But there's rub marks here. So when I squeeze that one 25 thousandths, it's going to jam that crank pin nuts, at least with the crankshaft that was in it, 25 thousandths into there. And or more, because I haven't faced this case. This case here is relatively unwelded on, but it's warped because it was bolted to the other warp case. Now, to be fair, mechanics and stuff don't have the ability to do this. Now here's the dowel pins. And that's that's the final thing I'm going to do, is relocate this to bring these two mismatch cases in register. But I want to point out that without the cases even being faced at all, that crankshaft was rubbing in here, and that's the problem. It was an aftermarket crankshaft, and possibly a stock one wouldn't be that much problem, but there's not very much clearances here, you see? So, and it's called the squeeze, because I start facing this thing together. It starts squeezing it together. And it gets pretty quickly. I've probably squeezed these things together 50 thousandths of an inch. And what happens, one of the little things you might not think about is these are the cylinder mount studs. Well, they squeeze together, and then you can't stick the cylinders on. And you can't stick the cylinders on because it's squeezed together. So this gets the full meal deal. And only thing I know what to do with these studs is take a die grinder and relieve the cylinders until it slides on. But I'm going to have to put this in the jig bore and not only do the dowel pins, but I'll have to rebore these surfaces here so the cylinders fit in. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this thing, it could end up squeezed together, I hope not much more than a 32nd of an inch or 35 thousandths somewhere. As everything else squeezes together, everything. All the transmission shafts, the gears sitting on those shafts, and you can end up with a lot of grinding to make that stuff work, and I've done it too many times. And usually on these old Sportsters like this that are this bad, this is something that I buy myself, and in my leisure time I'd fix them up. And back in the even in the 90s, you can take a Sportster, forget Camels, those things are just like gone, they don't even run and stuff. I've known a couple of them that rode around, but they were the last 2 years, 55 and 56, which was a lot of changes. They changed everything on it, made it a 900cc instead of a 750 like this. And that's kind of the charm of the old one. It's the old 750. And so I work on getting this thing together. But every single thing's going to have to squeeze in a 32nd of an inch, and that's the crankshaft. That's all the transmission stuff. And where that stuff comes in, the equipment I have is the surface grinder and this. So, which is a tool and cutter grinder. It's a universal tool and cutter grinder. It'll do internal and external cylindrical grinding, and doesn't have a lot of power, a little slow, but it's very precise. So it's sort of like, I emphasize this quite a bit on my channels. I have one called DD, and it got hacked, and it's still out there, but kind of lost in the wind here. So it's going to be a long-term thing. There's a lot of work to do, but I'll show it as I go. And I gotta remind people that I'm a retired person on a fixed income, and I have few medical issues and stuff like that, and I don't have a lot of money. And what I got to do, my priorities as far as the shop, is I've got to do a little add-on here, and I have a 6,000-pound radial drill that's just absolutely excellent condition. I got it from Robert down there at the salvage yard, and he really nailed me $1,500 on it. But the replacement on this machine is over $35,000, and there's a lot of cool things I can do with that, even for Harley old Davidsons. So, well, I guess what I'm saying, I'm going to show the machine work and stuff, but I'm not going to be able to put money into it and get some missing parts and stuff like that. You know, my experience with these things is no matter what, it's going to cost you a bunch of money, you know, and it's going to cost, I would estimate, at least $2,000, all the little things to put this thing together. I'll get around to showing you the rest of the motorcycle and what's there might be of interest. But the most important thing that I could show you is old-time millwright skills on how to deal with eggshell stuff like this that wants to bend and twist, and that's already bent and twist. So I'm going to get with the program here and get this. That is the left-hand case, the most important one on these things. Get that squared up. But one of the interesting things about these motorcycles, like back in the 90s and even into the 2000s, early 2000s, one of these that was running was worth about $2,500, and one that's not running was worth about $900 to $1,200. They're a pain in the ass to work on, but I kind of find that fun. You know, I find that part fun. So this is the right-hand case. It's the most complicated. And one of the interesting things about this, a lot of people don't know, is the oiling system. Well, it's really easy to put oil into a motor. It's hard to get it back out. This is a dry sump engine. And I'll show you something. So Harley Davidson says there's not supposed to be, in a big twin, the Sportster guys didn't say, but in a big twin there's supposed to be only 5 to 7 ounces of oil in this crankcase at any time. And Sportsters, it's got to be less. But to get the oil out, there's a scraper that scrapes it off these flywheels. See, the flywheel's a really tight fit here, and there's that scraper. And it goes down into that pocket, right there, to the oil pump drive. Right down in there, you see, there's a passage. That's kind of hard to see. Let's try it from this way. See the passage? It's got a spidey in there and there. So this drive gear is hollow and it's got a window in it. So when the pistons come down and it creates pressure in the crankcase, that window opens, blows the oil out here, and with the crankcase vapors and into the cam compartment here and oils this stuff. Isn't that interesting? I'll get more into the oiling system of these things. I'll be right back. Okay, now I've got the parts manual for all K models here, 52 to 56, and plus I have the Sportster 2 manuals. Here's that oil pump and that window in that hollow gear, in case you're interested there. Right in there. So we can look through some of this stuff. It's pretty cool. These air cleaner, you see the parts here. There's some things I'll show you with that Kickstarter. The Kickstarters are notorious. There's the clutch. It's the primary chain, and it goes into this part here. They had a compensating sprocket at one time for these too. There's the wheels. So here's the parts book for the whole thing. It's pretty cool. Okay, I got another book here. It's pretty cool too. Look at this. Competition Racer. Model KR, KRTT, XLRTT. And let's see if I can find that. There's some things in here that differ that people might find pretty interesting. Oh, there it is, the magneto clutch. I'm going to find the cam compartment here. Yeah, there's the they're talking about that breather timing here for the racing, and there's that window that I was pointing out. So you got to get the oil out of the crankcase or it drags. There's the valves. They show the how to do the heads for the racers here. Oh, this is very, very interesting. Here's the crankshaft for the TT racers, and they're ball bearing. They don't have the tenkin and the roller bearings. And this is cool too. Ball bearings on the cams, except this one here, it drives the magneto. That's bushing, but they got ball bearings on these cams instead of bushings or drawn cup needle bearings, which they used for a long time too. So they used to modify a lot of old Sportsters around here, including these K models, because people like to do hill climbs, and they were really into it, and they would machine these old cases to have ball bearings and grind the ends of the shafts down to fit in for the ends of the camshaft. I've done that for people, grind these things down, and they call it a ball job. I thought you might think that's kind of interesting. Now this is KR XLR. I want to show you something if I can find it in here. Yeah, this is how to hop those things up. This is a Harley Davidson publication. Yeah, look at that. They have the spaces in clearance. I think there's some reprints of this thing. Let's see if I can find that. There was another crankshaft view, but it might not have been in the, oh, there it is. I think this is it right here. No, that's the same view. They show one in here early. Maybe I'm thinking of the um, the 750 racing model. I have a manual for that too. Look at it. It shows how to modify the dimensions and stuff here for flowing the cylinder, I suppose. Here it is. So you move the shelf. You might find that cool. These old flatheads. Hopping up flatheads, that's a lost art, huh? And they got the KR transmission ratios. They had a lot of gear sets and stuff for these. But one of the problems, I've said before, was the technology and materials for gears was not up to it. Yeah, you see they got all the ratios for the various racing models. Okay, I'll be back in a second. Okay, now I've kicked this around, and I even talked to the technicians at Sun, and there's no substitute for this tool here. When let's make sure I didn't unplug myself there. When building an engine, this is the lapping tool here. I'll pull that off, and juggle it around. And right there is the hard steel bushing that this laps. It goes through this side and you lap that. And the other side, you have the cases together, you use a guide. If it's a plain bearing, it'll look like that. A bushing like this, older ones were that way. Or if it's got the Timken bearing, it'll just be a holder that you put the Timken bearings on, and it'll have a hole in it. What's that on my thumb? A spider eggs. Oh no! It'll have a hole in it right there, 3/4 inch hole for the Timken bearings, and that guides it. And you may have a son at home, and you can stick this on that and go like that, but it's not going to be in a line. This lapping tool, or it may not be in a line, this lapping tool pulls it in line, and it's kind of a tedious thing. Now, you can't hone it because the hone has to be piloted. And you can't have a piloted hone with the adjustable stones because it'll go out of line with the pilot. So what Sonnen has is, like, they call it a one-shot hone, and it's diamond. And I suspect that's what the factory uses these days, if they do it at all, or other manufacturers, because you can shoot it in one shot, and it's not adjustable. So that's how that's done there. But I wanted to point out that you can do this machine work without that tool. You just have to make plugs and stuff, and shafts, test shafts that come up, so you can get that face level on these things that's so warped. So I'm going to use part of the lapping tool and put one of these guides in there. Then I'll have a 3/4 inch ground bar coming up that I can indicate on and dial that in like that, okay? So you can machine these cases and get them in line, and probably do a pretty good job, even if you didn't have this lapping tool. Now, these things, sometime back I was looking, and you can get them fairly cheap. I think they're copying them in China and stuff. I haven't seen them. They'd probably work okay. Jim's makes these very expensive. I want to point out that the Jim's version of this, the parts are not interchangeable with Kent Moore, this original Kent Moore. And the Chinese ones, I don't know. But Eastern Motorcycle Parts, at one time, I believe they still do, sells the kit too. It'll be somewhat, I don't know, more expensive than China, I suppose. But I just thought I'd tell you where to get those tools and the skinny on it. So it's really necessary to complete this engine for it to be as good as it can be, to have that tool. Okay, now I got this place in such a disaster mess because it's so small in here, and I do other odds and things. I cut some aluminum over there on that axle, and I made a big mess. And I'm going to spend the rest of the day cleaning this disaster up, and probably tomorrow morning I will get back on this. Okay, you guys have a good day. I hope you picked up a few tips from me here.